I don't know what happens in government or in politics. Someone is earning 100,000 kwacha. Now he goes into government. He's an overnight millionaire or billionaire. Then what can people do in that regard?
But people have been doing things in Africa. I was making up an argument that there are African leaders who have actually demonstrated that you can live within your means. Kenneth David Kaunda of Zambia, when he left office, it is on record that he had no more than the equivalent of $8,000 in his account. Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. In other words, you can serve a people, you can hold a public office and live within your means, and you will be celebrated. But what must be done, and this is what must be done consistently by Africans, is that when people misbehave, then they must be punished. Have we seen such punishment? Yes. There are people who are being taken to court. There are people whose properties are being seized. And once that is happening, and once people know that when you acquire property in an improper manner, that property will be seized and be taken away from you, then they know that you cannot continue to eat the fruits of a poison tree. If you do so,
the fruits of a poison tree,
you will die.
The fruits of a poison tree.
Yes.
Hello family, this is African Esquire TV and I'm your host Tini Cherie. If you haven't already, please subscribe to AfricanEsquireTV.com. That is where I will post my videos before I post them to YouTube, as well as any articles that I would like to share with everyone or any other things that I want to share. So today I'm going to do a video on behalf of the Federation of African Liberation. Who are we? We are a group of Pan-Africanists, and we are very passionate about the issue of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is the belief that Africa must be free, and that for Africa to be free, Africans must be united, not just in Africa, but also throughout the diaspora. Similarly, if you are in the United States, if you are in the UK, if you are in a Caribbean island, you also are not free because Africa is not free. All of us are facing the same issues. All of us are being exploited. All of us are being discriminated against inside of our respective localities. And that is not a coincidence that we all face the same type of evils being done to us, and that Africa also is facing these evils being done to it by the same powers. So obviously in the US, if you're Black, your struggle is against white supremacy. Guess what? That is the same struggle that is in Africa. That is the same struggle in the Caribbean islands. That is the same struggle in the European countries. That is the same struggle for all African people everywhere we go. So that is why we advocate Pan-Africanism. Also, I want to just emphasize in what's going on with the dialogues that we have nowadays regarding a lot of our futures in the United States or in our localities, that we have to really consider whether there's any possibility that we will really be free where we are. And I would say that it's very unlikely that Black people are going to have too much of a future whenever we do not control the power of where we are, and that we do not control the politics, that we do not control the economic flow. It's just very hard for us to have any type of freedom wherever we are. And so the other thing that we also really try to bring light to and also encourage people to do is repatriate back to Africa. So what does this mean? It could mean you simply have a connection to Africa, or it could mean that you actually move back to Africa. It's important for us to know at least that this is an option for us, and that we don't have to stay inside of places where we're not welcome. We do not have to stay exploited, stay victimized, that we do have an option, and we do have a motherland. It's a motherland that is definitely under the control of our enemies, but at the same time, it is still our motherland. It is still our rights. So that is another issue that we will do our best to bring light to. If you'd like more information on FAL, I'll put our information in the description box. So what issue are we going to talk about today? It's a ridiculous one, and this is why we advocate against colonialism. Neocolonialism. So, colonialism was when Europe went into Africa and were the official owners of different countries, by their own declarations. They said, the Congo is going to be my colony, Angola is going to be my colony, South Africa is going to be my colony, and that's what continued on for not too long, but probably about a few decades until those African countries got freed. But after they were freed, they weren't really freed because, unfortunately, the colonial masters who formerly held power continued to hold power, but they weren't holding power by official means. They weren't saying that the Ivory Coast is officially a colony of France. Instead, they found a covert way to hide the fact that they were still their colony. The way that they did that was through neocolonialism, meaning we're not going to officially own you, but we're going to own your resources, we're going to own your raw materials, and we're going to do so by buying out your politicians. So today's story is a great example of what neocolonialism is and why it's something serious that we have to pay attention to. So we're going to the Congo. Congo president $19 million seized. Let's pause right there. Question: how does the Congo president have $19 million and the country is poor? And he was not with that money prior to becoming a public official. Where did the money come from? That should be the first question. He had $19 million seized in San Marino, which is a city in Italy, after he spent more than $2 million on watches and crocodile shoes. This person, who is the president of a poor country, spent $2 million on watches and crocodile shoes. This is true. This article is on Face to Face Africa. It was written by Ama Nuno, and we are going to go through some of what she talks about. One of Africa's longest-serving presidents has been accused of laundering $19 million using shell accounts in Europe. The Republic of San Marino, a small country landlocked by Italy, launched an investigation into a money laundering scheme allegedly masterminded by Congo's president, Denis Sassou Nguesso. According to the Telegraph, President Nguesso and his co-conspirators diverted 69 million euros, which would be the equivalent of $76 million, to San Marino from 2006 to 2011, and the country has been able to confiscate $19 million, which is reported to be one of the biggest amounts seized by the Republic. Nguesso allegedly used the money to fund his overly extravagant life. He bought a pair of crocodile skin shoes for a whopping I'll say the dollars instead because I'm in the U.S., $125,000, which would be equivalent to 114,000 euros. And his taste for the fine things in his life, he spent $2 million or 2.3 million euros on watches. He is president over a former French colony. The Congolese leader often traveled to Paris because, that's the place to go, allegedly paying $12,000 a night in a hotel. To divert attention from his money laundering schemes, the money was kept in 36 different accounts, making his relatives account holders, the investigation said. For the people of San Marino, this bust is a big win for them because they are keeping the seized funds. You heard that. So, the obvious thing is, he has all this money. Clearly, this money belongs to the country. It clearly belongs to the Congo, right? But these people in San Marino, they're so happy that they were able to seize this money because they're going to keep it. Crazy. You would think that they would say, where did you get this money? Did you take this money from your people? Should your people get your money back? No, they're not interested in that. They're going to keep the $19 million that they seized. Let's scroll down some. So, Nguesso's family name was involved in several corruption allegations. He was investigated for his son, who misappropriated $50 million of public money by routing it through shell companies in secrecy jurisdictions. According to Global Witness, the 6 countries who played a part was the European Union, the United States, the state of Delaware, British Virgin Islands, and all played a key role inside of the scheme. Now, here's the big question. How is it that all of these countries that are very strict on being anti-corruption countries, in particular the United States and the countries of the 6 countries in the European Union, how is it that he was able to get the ability to have this type of scheme inside of these countries? And the other question, why didn't they make him pay a penalty for this? It sounds like that this is an arrangement that was made in secret with different countries, and that's why he was able to do this scheme. Now, scroll down some. The money laundering scheme said to have been used by Sassou Nguesso as prime minister, as well as the son and namesake of the man who spent 35 years as president, is similar to the one of his older sister, Claudia. She allegedly used to steal $20 million of state funds, part of which she used to buy a luxury apartment in Trump Tower in New York. $20 million. Investigators obtained documents that said that she showed $675 million that left the Congo Brazzaville's treasury. Just understand, this is a poor country, as I'm saying all these millions. This is not something that the people are getting. So $675 million that she was able to get from the treasury. The son totaling more than $50 million subsequently went through the companies in Delaware and to the British Virgin Islands before reaching Cyprus. So, scrolling down some more. Okay. According to Global Witness, actually, I'm going to scroll down some more. Okay, so documents obtained by Global Witness allegedly show that in 2013, a department responsible for managing Congo Brazil's Treasury transferred roughly $675 million to a Delaware-based Asperger's subsidiary called Asperbras LLC, seemingly for major public works contracts. Okay, so there we go. According to Global Witness, 11 days later, Vega set up a company in Cyprus called Gabox. 2 days later, said Global Witness, that this company signed a contract with Energy and Mining and Asperbras LLC subsidiary based in the Virgin Islands, ostensibly to carry out part of a genealogical mapping project. So Glasso, he's president, who is also the president's director, Claudia Glasso, who is the president's director of communications, allegedly purchased $7 million apartment in Manhattan in the summer of 2014, raising new concerns about Trump's ties to international money laundering. So, okay. This is a lot, so let's just unpack this. What is going on? How is it that these people were able to launder so much money that a public official of Congo had? Now, this is should be concerning, not only because the country is so poor, but also because the ability of someone to go to other countries that are supposed to have no stake inside of this country clearly shows that there's something going on that we don't know about. And this is what neocolonialism does. So because we don't have control over our resources, and I say we, I mean the people who live on these lands, the people who mine the, whether it's gold or cobalt, but in the case of Congo, Brazil, their big product is oil. The people who are helping mine the oil there, they're not seeing any of that money. Instead, the money is taken and held by the public, and it's supposed to be used for the public good, right? Wrong. It's being used in order to procure contracts, foreign contracts, with outside countries. The big country obviously being the United States, and obviously you have European countries, and France is always going to be somewhere up in there. So this is something that's very common, and it's very unfortunate, because think about how much that money could mean to those people who are starving. So the question should be, how are these public officials getting elected by these people who are starving? And the answer, more likely than not, is that they weren't being elected by them. They were being pushed and supported by the outside governments. So the fact that this president was able to have so much money going around in different places, first of all, that's a big red flag. That means that there are deals going on with these different countries. He had contracts with a company inside of Delaware. It was able to put his money into that company. Again, a red flag. What is going on behind closed doors that we don't know about? These are the questions that the people of Congo, Brazil should be able to ask their public officials. But of course, when you have these dictators who don't hold themselves accountable to the people, they kind of create this big distance between the people. A lot of times these dictators won't even be in their country. They'll be inside of Europe all the time, and they won't even be in a place to where they could be held accountable. So this is the situation, not just here, but inside of a lot of other countries, whenever you have these African leaders who are getting so much money from these contracts. And the contracts, you're like, what are they contracting? Obviously, they're contracting to have a part in the oil scheme inside of these countries. In Congo, Brazil, it could also be for different natural minerals that are inside of Africa. These contracts allow these people to get so much money from the country, and the country has, from the outside country, so the foreign country, in this case, it could be the United States, it could be France, it could be any type of European country, it could be China. These contracts allow the outside foreign company to only pay the people who they're dealing with, only pay the presidents, only pay the people who won't be held accountable. And because of that, they don't have to worry about paying all the people who are actually laboring on these lands, all the people who are starving on these lands. So my question is, number one, why has the United States not been calling out these people? Why has the European Union not been calling out this guy? We call out people like Mugabe, right? We call him out. But what about these leaders? What about these people who are taking so much money and just laundering it? I mean, aren't y'all supposed to have laws against these things? I mean, I think that was somewhere in this article, like these countries that he's laundering money, they have very strict money laundering laws. But for some reason, here we go. Oh, that's not the part. But, these countries are supposed to have such strict money laundering laws, but somehow, how is this guy able to get over on them? And why are there no ramifications? Where are the tariffs being raised, or not the tariffs, the sanctions? So if he's breaking United States laws, if he's breaking European Union laws, shouldn't there be sanctions leveled against him for laundering? And of course there's not. So what does that tell us? That tells us that there's something happening with these jurisdictions behind closed doors that we don't see happening out in the public. So here's the quote, I just found it. It says, as we followed the trail of money, we found that it was funneled through several jurisdictions which pride themselves on having strong anti-money laundering regimes, such as the EU and the United States. So again, how is it that these countries with such anti-money laundering laws, how are they able to get past them? And the answer is that he has some type of deal with the United States government and with the European Union. Now, what is our responsibility in this? We have to figure out what's going on with this. If you are a person of Congo, Brazil, you should be demanding and finding out what is going on. How are we starving? How are we living on just a few dollars a day? And you are able to spend $2 million on watches, not even something like that you can live in. Like the $2 million house would be horrible to me, but watches, a $2 million car, that'd be crazy. Watches. How is it that we're living so poor now, we're starving, and you're able to throw this money in all these other places, and we are starving? How is it that you were able to afford your sister was able to afford a $20 million apartment in Trump Tower? How? That should be the thing that the people in Congo, Brazil are asking. For us in the diaspora, we are members of these governments. We are members of the United States government. He also had dealings with Poland, Portugal, Spain, Switzerland, France, Italy. If you are African inside of these countries, we need to be asking what is going on. How is this guy able to do that? How is the government allowing this to happen? I mean, isn't this government supposed to be protecting people who are being exploited inside these countries? Why is our government allowing a leader who's really not leading, he's just doing for himself? How is our government allowing him to launder money while his people are starving? Shouldn't the United States be worried? They're worried about everyone else. Shouldn't it be so worried about the corruption going on there, since they're worried about corruption in so many other countries? And whenever those countries don't go along with the U.S. policy, those are the questions that we should be asking. So I say this to say we have to organize as a people to combat neocolonialism. And we have to organize inside of our local capacities. If you are in the US, if you are in the UK, we should be demanding answers from our politicians, from our foreign policy representatives. We should be demanding answers for people who are so strict on money laundering. Inside of, if you're an American citizen, why are you not doing anything about this money going through the U.S.? Why are there no sanctions against this type of behavior? The only conclusion that we can draw whenever this is the case, and someone's being allowed to do these things, is that this is corruption. So let's figure out what's going on with this, and not just this country, Congo, Brazil, but other African countries, and let's do so by organizing. So I encourage you, please, to join the Federation of African Liberation, more so to get in leadership, and also make a commitment to share and learn and to educate people on what's going on inside of the African diaspora and on the African continent, and make a commitment to educate people on neocolonialism, and most importantly, make a commitment to organize with us together that we can address neocolonialism as a body inside of our different localities. If you're in the US, if you're in the UK, if you're anywhere, we need to be addressing these issues, and we need to be doing so together. So that's all I have for this, and we hope that you will join. I will see you guys in another video.